Hey everybody, it's Mr. Stroh here. We're going to check out the Purple Belt song "Old MacDonald Had a Farm." This is your ultimate practice guide for the Purple Belt and for Old MacDonald. So in this video, we'll start out with rhythm, mastering the rhythm before we master anything else. Next step is going to be note names. Note names is going to be step 2 out of 4. After we've gone through the letter names, note names of all of those, then the next step is going to be fingerings, get to know those fingerings, and then finally we're going to put it all together. Now, throughout all of this, you need to know about your slow warm air. You need to know about being careful with your fingers so you don't have leaks. You need to know about using your tongue. All of those recorder basics that you have seen in other videos and other things. So keep all of that in mind. Here's your music for Old MacDonald Had a Farm. You can see down here towards the bottom it says new things to learn for the Purple Belt song. Okay, now make sure you always check out what the new things are to learn because everything down there is important. You can see a quarter rest. You've probably seen those before, maybe not quite so squiggly, but there's a quarter rest for you. And of course, that means one beat with no sounds. Underneath that, it says dotted half note. Now, if you know about dots, you know that a half note is 2 beats, and a dot adds on half of that. And so half of 2 is 1. And so a dotted half note takes your 2 beats of a half note, and it adds on 1. And so a dotted half note is 3 beats long. You didn't know you were going to do so much math in music today, did you? 2 plus 1 equals 3, and that's a dotted half note is a note that's 3 beats long. And so when we get to that, we're going to say 3. That's just going to be the rhythm code word that we'll use for that is 3. It's just going to go 3, and it's going to last 3 beats, right? Of course, that's 3 beats long. You'll see some half notes. And you know, as I mentioned, a half note is 2 beats long. So when we get to a half note, you're just going to say 2, and it'll last for 2 beats. Okay, good old 2 and 3. Now, as far as rhythm goes, the other things that you're going to see in here is you'll see some tas, right? That's a quarter note. Ta is a 1 sound that lasts for 1 beat. That's just ta. And good old TT is 2 sounds that fit together into 1 beat. And so they don't even last for 1 beat by themselves. It takes 2 of them to fill up a beat. So when you see that, you'll say TT. So we've got tas, TTs, rests, plus 2 and 3. Okay. Let's read the rhythm together for Old MacDonald Had a Farm using ta, TT, rest, and everything else. 2, ready, go. Ta, 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 2, ta, ta, There's your 3 right there at the end. If you're feeling good about that, move on to the next step. But if you don't have that rhythm mastered quite yet, go back and practice the rhythm because the next part is going to be really tricky unless you know the rhythm. We've got to do that, master that part, and then move on to the next part. It's up to you to kind of go at your own pace here. Okay, step 2, note names. We have to go through and read all of these note names. Now, as you can see down there in the new things to learn for the Purple Belt, you may have noticed that there's a new note, D. Okay, and D is a tricky one because that's the one that dangles down here below the staff. Okay, it's underneath the first line. Now, you know that the 5 lines are every good burger deserves fries, E, G, B, D, F. Right? But underneath this E line, 1 step below E is D. And you can remember that it's D because it dangles underneath, or you can just know that D is the letter before E in the alphabet. And it's 1 step down, left means one step backwards in the alphabet. So there's your D. Okay, so D is important. The song also uses E. We don't have to worry about F here in your first space, but it does use G. It's going to use A in the second space. Remember, your spaces are F, A, C, E. And so here's your A space right here. So it's going to use A. It's going to use B. And I think that's the highest note that we have to worry about today is D and E, and then we'll have G, A, and B. Okay, let's read the letter names together. Starting on G. 1, 2, ready, go. G, 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 D, E, E, D. B, B, A, A, G. D, G, 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 D, E, E, D. B, B, A, A, G. D, D, G, 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 D, 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 G, G. G, 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 D, E, E, D, B, B, A, A, G. That's a lot of G's all in a row there, isn't it? So that's the letter names. Now that can be a little bit tricky. So go back and practice that step until you're feeling really good about it. When you're feeling really good about that, then you're ready for the next step. Now, for the next step, we're finally going to use the recorder because now we're going to practice the fingerings. But I'm not even going to play. I'm not going to be blowing anything into there. I'm going to just put that recorder right here on my beard. You can put it on your beard or just your chin, probably, more likely. And we're going to just follow along with the fingers. So every time I say G, right, every time we play G and you say G, you're going to have your fingers in the G fingering, right? Because G is 1, 2, 3 plus thumb. Okay, that's not a new note. But after G, 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 then we do have our new note D. And you can see in the fingering chart for D, it's right there, down there where it says new things to learn for purple belts. D is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 plus thumb. And this is tricky because there's so many fingers, it's easy to have a leak somewhere. And so just wiggle your fingers around until they all feel like they're totally sealing up those holes. No leaks allowed for D. And don't forget to wiggle your thumb, make sure that it's covering that up. And if they're all together, then you're going to get this low note D. And we'll talk about playing that later. But right now we're just worried about the fingerings. Okay, so there's D, D, D. And then E, you remember E was new with their Greenbelt song, It's Raining, It's Pouring. We use do, 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 do. That's your E down there, so we'll be using E and good old G, and then A, and then B, right? G, A, and B should be pretty comfortable for you by now because you've been using those three for a while. This is a good song to practice E and also get practice on our new note D. Okay, and we want to get good at those two notes because we'll be using those as the belts continue. Let's practice the fingerings for Old MacDonald. 2, ready, go. G, 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 D, E, E, D. B, B, A, A, G. D, G, 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 E, E, D. B, B, A, A, G. D, D, G, 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 D, D, G, G, G. G, 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 D, E, E, D, B, B, A, A, G. How's it going for you? By now you should be feeling probably pretty confident with that. But if you're not yet, then go back and practice it. Because the next step is going to put all of those pieces together. So if you're feeling good about the rhythm, feeling good about the note names and the fingerings, now we're going to play it. Okay? Here it comes. This is everything together. Before we start, we should talk about this new note D. Now, the trick with D is because it's a low note, you really need to be using that slow, warm air. Okay? If your air is too fast, it's going to squeak when you play it. If you're getting that kind of stuff, air's too fast, air's too cold, you've got to slow it down, okay? Now with that slower air, then you're going to get that nice round sound. And so you could practice, if you just want to practice that new note D, start on your G and walk your way down, like this. That's a nice way to practice it, okay? Just going. The inside of my mouth is nice and open. My tongue is kind of down. The top of my mouth is high, and I'm getting a nice, that will help you get that nice D sound. Once you can get right into the D without walking your way down, then you're ready to play. So here it comes. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay, that's everything you need to know for Old MacDonald Had a Farm. Go back and practice whatever step you need to work on. Don't forget about your recorder basics, the 3 recorder basics. Slow arm air, use your tongue, and your no leaks on the fingers. And I can't wait to see what you all come up with.